Just how a squeaky wheel gets all the grease, prominent visuals on website get all the attention. Deciding a visual hierarchy of website elements has been an ongoing task of designers. Points are the simplest element of a visual design. However, by definition, we cannot draw a point since to draw it, it needs to have dimension. What we can actually draw is a dot. In fact, dots are building blocks of any other design. When asked to imagine a dot, what comes to your mind first? A figure that is circular in nature? While we often consider a dot as circular, they are actually non-circular. A dot could be of any shape or form regardless of its size. Any mark could be perceived as a dot or a series of dots. Dots are points of focused attention. Dots are the focal points of the compositions and anchor themselves in the space around them and provide reference to other forms around it. Dots establish a relationship with the space around them. The two most properties are proportion and position. As a dot increases in size, we begin to perceive them as shapes. However, they still retain their fundamental dot-like qualities and characteristics. For example, a square placed in the white space is still a dot. It still attracts visual attention, which is dot's defining characteristic. Hence, with the proportion, designers can establish relationship. Once placed on a page, dots create a symmetry or asymmetry. When aligned in a particular position on the screen, they immediately start to form as a composition. For example, dots in the scale and a single dot creates an asymmetric composition through its position. This observation turns more interesting when multiple dots are present. When two dots are placed in proximity, the emphasis is shifted from the space between them to the relationship that the dots share. The second dot following the first dot implies structure. But as the space between the dot decreases, the tension between them increases. However, when it approaches to almost zero, the space overpowers them and becomes much more important than the dots. The tiny space holds all the tension. Eventually, as the dots move closer and have minimal proximity, they are perceived as a single object. Rather than being perceived as two different circles, they are perceived as a single, altogether different shape. This leads to the formation of a more complex shape than either do individually. This occurs because the new tension is based on the appearance of depth. Dots can form an endless variety of structures. They can become lines or curves when placed adjacent to each other or can be perceived as patterns or shapes. You may be wondering, how do we use dots in website designing? Single-page websites are trending and exponentially increasing day by day. One way to navigate this type of design is by dot navigation. It entails a series of dots in the right or left sidebar that indicates the number of pages on the website. Apart from navigation, dots as ellipses have been widely used to communicate vital information to the users. They are often used to initiate action and increase users' engagement with the web page. An ellipsis adds visual prominence to the text field and draws attention of the user. It also aids in minimizing the words and nudging the user to fill in the blank by entering their own word, thus enhancing engagement. The fundamental characteristic of a dot is to draw users' attention. Whenever a designer wants the user to look in a particular direction or emphasize on important information, a dot stands ready. Designers have also utilized dots to create minimalistic designs and logos. Let's recall what we just learned. Dots are points of focused attention and designers can effectively use them to enhance user experience by leveraging dot navigation on single websites, adding an ellipsis to enhance the visual prominence, aligning the dots in such a way that guides users' eyes in the desired direction, by creating minimalistic designs and logos by using dots that eases the user to interpret it by reducing the cognitive load. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe to stay tuned.